crashes, defective products, dangerous drugs, injuries, and abuse. Across the state of Alabama, the attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis, Wright, are here to serve you. Your tough legal questions answered by our experts with host David Lamb and the attorneys of Hollis, Wright.
Good evening and welcome into the attorneys. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Got an interesting topic of conversation that literally will affect us all at some point. So you're going to want to tune in to this one for sure. Before we get to those introductions, some ground rules. This show is always better whenever you are more involved. So we try to make that easy for you. You'll see all throughout the program ways you can call, text, email. But just in case you need the digital numbers yourself, if you would like to text us, that number is area code 205-670-1949. Or you can call us toll free 844-529-8255. That is 844-LAW-TALK. Also, attorneys from Hollis Wright are standing by live. That free, off-air, and confidential conversation is yours for the asking. Just pick up the phone and give them a call all throughout the program tonight. Leading our conversation, he's the managing partner of Hollis Wright, Josh Wright. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you. I feel like people sometimes will challenge whether or not they're actually lawyers on the other end of that.
Oh, it's true, isn't it?
And I like them to do that. If you call, text, email, you're gonna get a lawyer to be able to answer some questions.
And not only that, but you know, Hollis Wright active on social media, so there are plenty of ways during the show tonight to kind of get in touch with somebody.
100%. So David, you hit the nail on the head at the beginning of the show, which is this topic is going to affect everybody, not just in this room, but everybody watching. It's the issue of elder law. And it's a very broad topic. Melanie Holliman is with us today with Bradford and Holliman. She's going to be talking a little bit about this topic. And this is not an area of the law that everybody gets involved in. I mean, this requires some real knowledge and understanding of this area of the law. And so we're super happy to have you on. So first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on to talk about it. Talk with me a little bit about your practice and just kind of how you got into this area of the law, because it is so unique.
Well, I got into this area because my parents had me when they were much older. So I grew up with them having concerns about what was going to happen to me as they aged, what would happen with their own health care and that sort of thing. I knew I enjoyed estate planning tremendously, and I started learning about the issues that the elderly have and decided that it was an area that there wasn't a lot of help for people, and it was a good area to go into.
Yeah. Tell me, where's your office located?
We're located in Pelham.
Okay.
We're just off of I-65. We are across from the old Valley Elementary on Pelham Parkway or Highway 31.
Service all over the city, though, if people want to come talk to you.
All over the city.
All right, so it is interesting, by the way. You hear her story, and think of all the guests that we have had on this show, and where there's something in their life that impacted the area of law that they ended up in. I think it's so interesting in the legal practice, because my story is very similar to that too. And a lot of times it's just based on a case you had early on or a life experience. So I think it's kind of neat how she got into that. So that's cool. But all right, let's talk about this for a second. Talk to us, just kind of explain what is, when someone says, what do you do? And you say, look, I specialize in elder law. Explain that topic, because it's really broad.
Well, and it really depends on the lawyer, because there aren't that many elder law attorneys in Alabama, but of the ones that are here, we all have different areas of practice that we really focus on. Some attorneys may be focusing on litigation from nursing home cases. Some may only focus really on estate planning or probate issues like guardianship, conservatorship. In our practice, we focus on the estate planning, which is the area I originally went into. We focus on probate, but we do a lot of asset protection, a tremendous amount of that, along with working on VA benefits and Medicaid. So it can be long-term care planning to make sure that people can get these benefits and to make sure their plan is carried out.
So let's talk a little bit about asset protection in the elder law concept. Give us some examples of things that you guys are able to do that help people protect those assets.
Well, the first number one thing is the client has to come to us in advance. Yeah. There's crisis planning, and then there's really pre-planning. So the best way to do it, the way that meets clients' true goals, is if they can come in several years early, minimum of 5 years, which of course a client is not going to know when they will need nursing home care. So it's always a bit of a gamble. But if they will come in early, then we can sit down with them, we can look at their goals, their family structure, if there's military service, their health care, their income, their assets. We can look at the entire big picture and come up with a plan to pay for their care, keep them where they want to be, and use any benefits that may be available. But we typically will also use asset protection trust and maybe some other strategies depending on their situation to give them what they're really wanting.
So, for example, if someone comes to you early enough and they want to find a way to cover themselves if they need a nursing home, for example, that's one of the things you guys will do.
Yes.
Is to assist them so that it's not a burden on their family necessary, and it's more based on the assets that they've got.
And one of the big things is it's usually still a couple. It may be that the children are contacting us. The parents may be older and haven't really thought about it, but it may very well be the parents, and they will come in and they will say, if I go to a nursing home, I don't want my spouse to be destitute. Yeah. I want my spouse to be taken care of. I don't want to lose the house. And there's lots of misconceptions that we have to educate them and make them understand the process of what really will happen and what can happen, and then we look at what we need to do. And it's also an estate plan. Yeah. So when you do an asset protection plan, you're also planning their entire estate.
Yeah, you can see how it's really important to go early, like Melanie was talking about. You want to try minimum 5 years before you even need this plan in the first place.
What advice do you give, Melanie, to families, loved ones, to have these delicate conversations? Because I think for many of us, it's kind of an awkward conversation. How do you get into it? What sort of counsel do you give there?
Well, I think I will go back to the question I usually hear families say to me, or rather the parents, the seniors, and they will usually say, I don't want them to take everything that I've worked for. Yeah. Now, they don't necessarily know who them is, but they know someone is going to try to take their assets. So if they go to a nursing home and they hear stories from their neighborhood, from church, from various places, and so they're afraid. Usually they already have these thoughts, and it's just a matter of having the conversation with them and then educating them about what really happens, and then letting them decide what they want to do.
Right. Yeah, I know we're getting ready to go to break. When we come back, I want to talk about some tangible examples. We're going to unwrap this a little bit more, but like how VA benefits can get involved and they can use VA benefits to protect and create your asset plan. Also Medicaid, what role Medicaid plays. Those are important topics that we need to cover.
Absolutely, we'll do that. We're stepping aside our first break of the evening. Stay tuned, we've got more of the attorneys coming right up.
I'm Josh Wright with the law firm of Hollis, Wright, a personal injury law firm, and thank you for watching The Attorneys. We hope you, a friend, or a loved one never needs legal counsel for a case. But if you do, the goal of the show is simple: to provide answers and legal counsel when you need it the most. Your call to the show is free and off air. So if you have questions specific to the show or related to other accident or injury topics, call, email, or text us. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, or go to hollis-wright.com and click on the Contact Us button. We know your time is valuable, so thank you for spending it with us and watching The Attorneys. Hollis Wright, car and truck accident attorney, standing by right now to help you.
Hollis Wright is a proud sponsor of high school athletics.
Contact the winning team of attorneys at Hollis Wright if you need help after an accident.
Our law firm proudly supports Alabama high school athletics as well as the AL.com Hollis Wright Player of the Week.
Be sure to go vote this week for your favorite player at the Hollis Wright AL.com fan poll.
Welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Appreciate you doing so. Hey, a reminder before we get back to the conversation, attorneys from Hollis Wright standing by live to speak with you. Just give them a call. Also, don't forget you can follow Hollis Wright on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all great resources for kind of keeping you up to date on legal matters and also even clips of the show. So be sure and follow them there. Josh?
All right, so when we went to break, we kind of teased it with, let's talk a little bit about how the VA or Medicaid or even Medicare for that matter weigh into kind of the elder asset protection plan. Let's talk just a little bit about that. How do you use those benefits, for example, to be able to craft a plan that works for someone?
Well, and it really is a combination. It depends on the facts of the client because it may not apply in some cases. But the first thing is educating them that Medicare is not going to pay for their long-term care. It may pay for 20 days of rehab. It may pay, depending on their supplemental plan, for a little bit longer stay in rehab. But it's not going to pay for true nursing home care, custodial care. You can get some home health visits, but that's really not caregiving. That's not enough to help the family as far as a day-to-day true care of the elderly person. So Medicare is not what you can go with. You have to look at, are there VA benefits that are available? And ultimately, Medicaid would be the end of the road really for everyone, because you're looking at nursing home care costing $6,500 a month on average, even in rural areas of Alabama, and it can be as high as $10,000 in Birmingham per month just for the room and board. So any of us with our 401ks, our IRAs, and our income, we may go through it quickly if we are in a facility for very long. So we ultimately have to plan to make sure that we don't do anything that would prevent the person from getting Medicaid. But then we try to use VA benefits and other strategies to maximize how long they're able to stay at home or in a assisted living environment.
Do you see people whiff on this issue or make mistakes on this issue a lot, just assuming Medicare is going to help them?
All the time.
Okay, because
every week.
I hope people heard that, because that's important information that people need to understand, that Medicare is not there as the safety net for purposes of long-term care if you need it. There are other strategies that you need and have an option to use and implement, but Medicare is probably not going to be it. So it's another reason why you go to someone like Melanie, to make sure that you're evaluating what are my options in advance, to make sure that I'm not putting a tremendous weight on my children, for example, to make sure that I'm protected moving forward.
You mentioned also VA benefits. There are, in our area and in the state of Alabama, just a number of veterans. Military service is high here. Do you is that an area where a lot of folks and families miss it? Not only if there is a veteran, but even as a widow of a veteran and that whole sort of specter? It's
extremely underutilized. There's only about 5%, it's actually less than that, of people that use the VA pension benefit. And that's available. You have to have certain wartime service, you have to have certain health issues and certain financial criteria, but it's a pension benefit that is paid so that the family, the veteran or the spouse can stay at home longer, can go to assisted living, can go to memory care. It's extra money, tax-free money, to help them actually stay and be cared for where they want to be. But there's also VA disability, and that's a totally different area. So service-connected disability, it may be that the veteran was injured during a time of service, and that rating is too low. As they age, it needs to be increased. And depending on the rating, it may be that the surviving spouse can get some benefits because of that. And the higher the rating, the better the benefits for them, which can also help their long-term
Is it a really
care.
complicated process to
It's not supposed to be.
Right.
You're not supposed to need an attorney. Now, we are VA accredited attorneys. If an attorney helps, you're supposed to be accredited by the VA. But in our experience, we have found that we can get the benefits much faster
I would bet.
than someone trying to do it by themselves. And we can do things that some of the representatives can't do to help them meet the criteria.
We get this question a lot. I'm getting VA disability, or I'm getting some form of Social Security disability. Is that money going to be redirected to my nursing home if I can't pay for my own nursing home? Do you see that a lot? Because those are questions we get consistently, and I just wonder if you could maybe even touch on that just a little bit.
So if you go into a nursing home, the first thing, they're looking at your income, and they are going to, there's a formula, but the bulk of your income will go to the nursing home. If you are approved for Medicaid, then Medicaid's going to pay the remainder. So that in a nutshell is how it works. They will usually get to keep $30 a month. They'll get to keep enough money to pay their supplemental insurance and some prescription drug. And if they're getting the VA benefit, they will actually lose that benefit, not disability, but if it's the pension benefit, they'll lose it and only retain $90 a month.
Okay. So it's kind of complicated.
It's complicated.
It requires somebody to kind of walk you through it. Talk a little bit about how you weave trusts into this. You talked a lot about asset protection. Are trusts just one vehicle to help protect people from an asset kind of process?
Yes, I mean, they only work if it's done very early. It's not something that you can do in a crisis situation, which means that we've got to do something immediately and someone has to go into a facility. It's also got to be done correctly, because you've got to juggle the IRS regulations with the government benefits that you're working with, and also, of course, general state trust law. One thing that sometimes I'll hear families say, well, I'll just give my assets away. Well, they're not thinking about the fact that that can cause high capital gains tax issues. And also, what if the child gets sued? What if the child gets a divorce? What if the child just decides to be ugly and not help the parent? So there's issues where that's a bad idea. And trust can work to actually preserve the estate plan while also protecting assets.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of this planning also, and we'll talk, I know we're getting ready to go to break, David, and we can talk about this afterwards a little bit, but a lot of this planning on the front end and doing an asset protection plan allows you to have some influence over whether your children are going to be responsible for you kind of moving forward, but also who's going to kind of be in charge to manage these things. And that's got to be delicate with families.
Especially with blended family situations, but also, I mean, we all know families that just, the siblings don't get along. And so it allows, when I say estate planning, I mean that it allows the parents to say, this is who's going to control these things, this is how it will be controlled, this is what's ultimately going to happen when I pass away. It even lets them protect the children from themselves. So there may be children where the parent is saying, well, they have creditor issues. Their money has to be protected so it just doesn't go to creditors. Or they get divorced all the time. It has to be protected so it doesn't go through a divorce proceeding.
All right, so when we come back, we'll unwrap that a little bit more, because I think there's some issues we can still address, but I know we're getting ready to go to break.
Let's head to break. We're going to stop right here, our final break of the evening. If you want to get in touch with us or those attorneys that are standing by, take advantage of that opportunity. Stay tuned. We're coming right back.
I'm attorney Carter Clay with Hollis Wright Law Firm. If you've ever been involved in a civil lawsuit or been a witness to an accident, then you may have been asked to give deposition testimony. In this week's Legal 411, we are answering the question, what is a deposition and why am I being asked to give one? Depositions involve the process of a person giving under oath testimony that is outside of court. The person giving deposition testimony is referred to as the deponent. Depositions are taken in the presence of a court reporter, and the court reporter records the testimony. After the deposition, the attorneys for the parties received a typed transcript that contains all the questions that were asked by the attorneys, as well as the answers given by the deponent. The purpose of taking depositions is to ensure that the attorneys for the parties have a full and complete understanding of the events giving rise to the lawsuit, as well as an understanding of the testimony that they can expect to hear from witnesses at trial. Another reason an attorney might want to get deposition testimony is that it allows the attorneys to better prepare for trial and to develop a strategy for presenting the case to a judge or a jury. At trial, the deposition testimony can be used in several ways. First, if a witness on the stand deviates from the deposition testimony, an attorney can use the deposition to impeach the witness. Also, if a witness forgets certain facts or events, the deposition can be used to refresh the witness's recollection. Finally, in some instances when a witness simply cannot attend trial, the trial judge has the authority to allow the deposition testimony to be read to the jury. If you are a party to a lawsuit and are requested to give deposition testimony, your attorney will likely spend a significant amount of time preparing you for the deposition process to put you at ease and make you feel comfortable. Please remember, your call, email, or text to the attorneys is free. All of us at Hollis Wright want to help answer your questions on real issues you face. Remember, a competent lawyer will respond to every question you send in. That's our pledge and promise to you. Thanks for watching The Attorneys on WVTM 13.
Welcome back into The Attorneys. Our final segment is upon us, less than 6 minutes remaining. So if you want to take advantage of that opportunity to speak with attorneys from Hollis Wright, you got a few minutes to do so. So get on that phone. Josh?
All right, so Melanie, let's talk just for a second about durable powers of attorney. How does that work? Because that's a question we get a lot. We'll get a lot of text questions about that. How does that work, and how in your practice do you help families with that?
Well, it's a great question. One, it's extremely important. You want a power of attorney before the person gets to the point that they need to be thinking about the power of attorney. We don't want issues where we're wondering, do they have capacity? Are they mentally capable of signing a legal document or not? But the other thing is there are a lot of cases where people abuse powers of attorney. So you have to make sure that you are naming someone that is truly trustworthy, that is truly going to do what you need them to do, and put them in charge, and it prevents the family from having to go to probate court if the elderly person has a stroke or somehow becomes incapacitated.
Explain that one more time, because it's super important. If you don't have a durable power of attorney, you end up having to go to court, have a filing and a pleading, and get a judge to assist.
Yes. So if you do not have a power of attorney, then the family is going to come, say, to my office. They're probably in a crisis situation, wanting power to do something with a bank account or pay a bill immediately, and we have to go to court and get on a docket, which takes time, and then be approved by the court to be able to carry out these actions. And then you have to report to the court periodically and ask for permission to do things. So it puts the court very much into the family's business. Wives can be, or husbands can be insulted by that. Children can be insulted by it.
You know, the interesting statistic that I saw in preparation of the show is 70% of us will need long-term care. I mean, 7 out of 10 people are going to need this. It's why you need to go to someone like Melanie to have this evaluated. Is it cost effective? Can someone come in and get a consultation with you to assess what the plan is? How does that work?
Well, we have free consultations, so yes. And what we're going to do is go over their entire background, their goals, and come up with a game plan. Then we can talk about fees, and so they can say no, or they can go forward. Most people go forward because what we're able to do is usually something that's going to save them a lot of money.
You see a lot of people that come to you initially that have never even drafted a will?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And do you think wills are an important component to this whole asset protection process?
I do, because we're not, even with a trust, we may eliminate the need to go to probate, but there's always the chance that they may have purchased something, or there may be a personal injury case that needs to be brought later, and you need to go through probate court.
And one other question, because I know we get calls and texts about this a lot. You know, I have a family member who has Alzheimer's. I don't think they're capable of signing, a will or a probate document, or not a probate document, but a power of attorney now. What do I do? And that's kind of that crisis you were talking about. When that happens, you still recommend coming to an attorney to be able to work through these things?
Yes, because it may be, we certainly have to be much more careful. We have to make an evaluation if we feel that they are legally capable of doing it, and that may be a collaboration with the doctors and the family. Yeah. If they're not, then we have to look at probate court.
Real good stuff.
It really
it's going to affect all of us. 7 out of 10 people are going to need this type of care anyways.
Really helpful conversation tonight. We're just about out of time, less than 2 minutes remaining, but wanted an opportunity for a final thought from the both of you. And if you would, you go first, please.
Well, it's something that must be done in advance. That's the best way to do it. But even if you're in a crisis situation, we can help. We can usually do a lot of things to alleviate the pain for the family if it's in a crisis situation. So always get advice for this situation.
Yeah, there are a lot of topics we do, David, that are not in the skill set of what our law firm does, and it's why we believe that this show is a good outreach to the community, because we're able to bring on experts like Melanie that can talk about how to protect yourself and how to asset plan and how to make sure that you've got the long-term care you need and the benefits that you're entitled to. And so, this is just another shining example of a topic that we do that is important to us because it impacts the viewing audience. And I think the advice we've gotten tonight is critically important. If someone's going through these circumstances, they need to get to us. If they've forgotten Melanie's contact, we'll get you to Melanie to make sure that they've got the proper, just kind of the proper evaluation for them on what's going to protect them moving forward. But these are great shows, and you did a great job, by the way. Super impressed with you in this area of the law.
Yeah, really good stuff. Appreciate you all being with us. Some important information that you need to keep in mind. Don't bury your head in the sand on this one for sure. Better to be proactive. We thank you so much for joining us. We'll look for you next time right here on The Attorneys.
Thanks for watching The Attorneys, sponsored by Hollis Wright.